Hi, my name is Phil Vasquez. I am 40, soon to be 41 years old, and I am the volunteer health educator and prep guide for TNA. Got a good introduction? I don't know.
It was perfect. It was perfect. What's the podcast about today?
This is basically a small interview, more or less to help see that at the end of the road, there are still bright points that a lot of us aren't, I guess, aware of right now because we're going through a struggle or in the middle of crisis or in the middle of trauma. But there is a brighter light at the end. And that process of recovery sometimes doesn't end and sometimes it does. But wanting to find a more peaceful place to live through or a more peaceful life to live through is one of the objectives that I try to work through for myself and also on a professional level when I'm working with other individuals.
When did it start? When did you helping people really like start?
I was about 14 or 15 years old, and I was in a residential group home, very, very far from my adoptive family. And one of the courses at the group home had to do with becoming a junior counselor. And that's how I really got a closer sense of how there are programs available and therapy, uh, I guess, scenarios that are available for people to utilize to work through when they have, traumatic pasts.
Was it hard at first to kind of like trust people like that who were trying to offer the help?
It was extremely hard. I come from a very hard life when it comes to betrayal and deceit and manipulation. But when I first started noticing that the only way for me to heal from some of those things was to try to face them and understand them, it became, I guess you could say, apparent that sometimes you have to go through the rough things that you don't like in order to get to the things that you do like. So trusting individuals was one of the things that I had to start doing, but also I had to learn how to set boundaries and acknowledge and recognize that a lot of the individuals in my life are not who they might be, and other individuals in my life may not be who I assumed them to be, and that could be either good or bad.
Was there a certain type of way that you kind of like learn? Is there like a type of way that made you kind of learn how the people would be and how you can expect who to trust and not to trust?
No, not really. Even with all the little bit of knowledge that I was acquiring, I was still making certain judgment calls that weren't really smart just because I really, really, really wanted them to be what I thought they were going to be. So there's a learning curve and there's a process to it that um makes it more trial and error than it is just knowing the technique and getting through it.
Is it still like that right now, where you kind of sometimes like do the pick the wrong people to trust and everything like that?
Yeah, in a lot of occasions. Now in my professional life, there are plenty of situations where I don't feel that I can trust a person, and then there's certain situations where I don't trust a person, and it bites me in the butt later because they were good for me or they were genuine about wanting to help me out with my situations.
Do you think there'll ever be a time where you can actually like figure it out like completely, or do you think it's always going to be a what if situation like usual?
In my personal opinion, I don't think this is ever going to stop. I believe that my life is going to be nothing but a ginormous decision making and problem solving situation. And for a lot of people, that is life. It's one situation after another, after another, after another. And the difference between it is either just existing in the situation or surviving and moving on to the next situation.
If you don't mind me asking, what was the event that happened that kind of pushed you to be like that? or to think like that, more or less?
Wow, we can go all the way to the beginning. I was for lack of better understanding at this point in time in my life, because I'm still searching for answers, I am an abandoned child. So at some point of time, my parent that was taking care of me when I was an infant decided to leave and not come back home at all. So from the beginning of that, moving forward, it's been abandonment issues, trust issues, just continuously always feeling like I can't get close to certain people. I can't associate with certain groups of people because they might trigger or cause emotions in me that will, um, I guess, cloud my judgment, so to speak.
Do you think that in some way that's a good thing? Like, would you rather trust everybody and get hurt, or not really trust many and get hurt every once in a while?
The second, I think that it's more natural uh, to feel that not everybody is supposed to be trusted. So I think it's okay not to feel that you have to trust everybody that comes across or everybody that you get introduced to. I think it's normal that we have a sense of not trusting everybody. I feel like
Hmm.
we're not meant to trust everybody, and we're not meant to just automatically magnetize to people's personalities or automatically believe what they say. Um, I believe very much so in giving a person the benefit of the doubt, but also acknowledging that every other human being that you meet in existence is just that, just another human being living the same experience that you're living, just through different circumstances.
Would you say that not trusting people kind of helped you out in life, being known that, some people you couldn't vibe with and it made you a better person, or do you think it kind of clouded it sometimes?
50-50. Definitely 50-50. There's a lot of situations where I wish I would have trusted a person and not had that gut instinct telling me to get away from them or something like that, because they turned out to, like, later on be very, very good individuals or a great guide to get through a lot of things. But because I was so caught up on my own, don't trust this person, don't trust that person. They're all out to get you. Nobody wants anything good for you. So that blocked me from a lot of blessings.
Is there anything that you would like to like get a little bit in deep with? I don't know like where the boundaries are. I don't want to
I have
cross any
none.
lines.
I
Asking questions.
when it comes to this interview, I don't have any
Hmm.
boundaries because I honestly believe that this interview is going to be uh, possibly helpful for other individuals that might be going through similar situations as myself.
Okay.
And also, like I always try to tell a lot of people, I'm a very, very resourceful, full of knowledge, and I only attain this knowledge to give it away. So I'm not, I didn't become a nerd, so to speak, to keep all that knowledge to myself. I attained it and learned everything so that I can tell other people about it and educate the world.
Okay. I'm gonna ask a couple of questions about your abandonment and possible, I'm assuming foster care, yes?
Yes,
I,
absolutely. Yes. I've
if
been
you
adopted a
don't,
few times.
yes, if I remember, but if you don't want to answer any questions, you do not have to. And if
Cool.
it
I
gets a little too
appreciate that.
quiet, um, how were your foster homes? You said you were, took it in when you were a baby. Was it bad? Was it okay being in the system? I know it's stressful.
I
Would you like
have,
to?
oh, sure, sure. I have very small recollection of my life prior to the age of 6 or 7. I was told from family members that are my biological family. I didn't meet them until way later in my life, but I was told by them a few stories of why I was bounced around so much. But in the end of it all, by the time that I was 7 years old, I was permanently adopted by a family, given a new last name and knew everything. But the abandonment was due to substance abuse and alcoholism in my biological family on both sides. So my mom was a heroin addict, and my father was an alcoholic.
Them being alcoholics and, well, addicts in general, do you think it kind of almost made you go down a path?
It did. It did. And here on to I would say around the age of 11 or 10, I started doing everything else I saw adults doing. So if I saw adults smoking cigarettes, I wanted to smoke cigarettes. If I saw adults grabbing a can of Budweiser or any other alcoholic beverage, I wanted to be just like them. When I met older adults that were hanging out on the block and they were smoking marijuana and defacing public property, and I wanted to do all of those things. I wanted to be just like the people that I saw on the street because from the stories that I was told, my mom was a street person and my dad was a street person. And then everybody that I thought was cool were street people. So it definitely impacted the image of what I thought was cool and living properly. But what I was really doing was reaching out for love and for acceptance and for help due to the abandonment issues that I didn't take a look at until I was like in my 20s. I didn't get help because I wanted it. I got help because the Department of Corrections and the justice system mandated it. I committed a few crimes while under the influence. I was gang affiliated, and most of it had to do with selling drugs, which in one way or another is substance abuse. So I did a lot of acting out, and uh, I was very shamed for speaking up or telling them that I was going through something because I grew up in an era where having a mental health issue was a very big problem for your family. When it came to like image or society acceptance, it wasn't something that was spoken about as much as it is now, after the year 2000 and all that stuff.
Can you elaborate a little bit more?
Sure. When I was about 14, I ran away from my adopted parents. And at that time, I was already in a gang and I was already selling drugs. And I was already using a lot of alcohol. And like almost every day, I was drinking. And almost every day, multiple times a day, I was either using PCP, which is another substance, or I was smoking marijuana. And those two things together in combination triggered a lot of aggressive actions. So, in order for me to make money for more drugs, because they were highly addictive, I either stole from people, or I robbed places, or I broke into places. And if I got caught, I had absolutely no problem at that moment because I was going through my addiction to maybe commit a violent act here and there. Nothing that I'm really proud of at this moment in my life, but it's definitely things that I'm proud that I survived.
Did being incarcerated and like being away from drugs kind of help a little bit, even though it's something horrible to go through? Did it kind of make you realize that you were dependent on everything?
Yes. What made me realize that I was dependent was getting sober. Once I was sober, through the detox of alcoholism and through the detox of being a drug dealer, because even that takes a detox, you become addicted to the lifestyle, you become addicted to the money, you become addicted to the serotonin and the endorphins that and the adrenaline that's running through your system because you're exciting your system with a drug of risk. So becoming clean off of that left me with a lot of unfaced anger. Becoming clean off of alcoholism left me with a chemical imbalance that now I have to medicate for just to somewhat feel okay on an almost daily basis. I found out that I had ADHD and depression and anxiety and I found out that I had very violent tendencies when I was triggered about my physical abuse or my own self harm.
Mm. Do you think that maybe when you were smoking and you know, behaving in addict behavior, do you think that it kind of made you and your depression and your ADHD become unknown? Do you think that maybe you assumed that it was just because you were
It
sober instead of it just being an underlying issue?
100%. Every time that I was sober, I felt my problems. Every time that I was not drunk or high, I felt the depression. I felt the sadness. I felt the anger. I felt the abandonment. I felt the loneliness until I got high and drunk again, or until I committed another risky act. I stole a car or I broke into somebody's apartment to make me feel alive. But I was definitely covering everything up with some kind of a substance that was not natural or healthy for me.
Is currently being medicated for it helping, or do you still sometimes have tendency?
In a way, I don't have to medicate
Hmm.
daily. I medicate when I am feeling the beginning of an anxiety attack. I also have non-medicinal uh therapy things that I do to like calm myself down, like breathing techniques or sitting in a completely entirely quiet place with the lights off just to like bring me back to zero. But out of a month, I think I would maybe, I can say I medicate maybe 5, 6 times a month compared to when it was 25 days out of the month, 27 days out of the month. So I'm having more space in between my little panic attacks or my depressive bouts.
I'm actually glad that you found way better coping mechanisms because being addicted and an addict
Why,
is
thank you.
really bad. It messes with your mental a lot and with the people around you because they'll start to see that they'll believe that you are yourself as an addict instead of you as an actual person and being sober.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. It's absolutely just like that. It's learning on a daily basis on how many different ways you can bring yourself back to zero without reaching for the bottle or without reaching for the pill or without, even there's some days where I have better luck reaching for my phone and calling a friend than waiting the 30 minutes that it's going to take for the medication to kick in. And then, of course, there's the side effects of the medication. Over a period of time, some people develop issues with their kidneys or develop other chemical imbalances or develop issues with bone density or, even your liver, because everything that we take, whether it's to help us or not, has to get filtered through our body, and not everything is meant to be inside of our body to begin with.
Would you prefer going like fully cold turkey and never having to do meds again and struggling with, your own thoughts and, possible addiction coming back? Or would you definitely recommend to some people to get tested for
Um,
like to see if they need the meds? Maybe, smoking is just or drinking is just an underlying issue for like mental concern or like if somebody's bipolar, thing like
I
that.
I agree. Absolutely. And once again, I agree 100%. There are many different occasions where utilizing a chemical in the place of, let's say, something natural can actually be what you need at that moment. It's a case by case situation. Not everybody is going to do well in, let's say, therapy compared to being on medication. Not everybody does well note taking and holding themselves accountable compared to having a life coach. So it's really a case by case. Me personally, I would like to get to the point where I can utilize all the natural resources that I know of to get myself away from a state of crisis without having to reach for any substance outside of my body. So if I can make it to a day where I don't need meds and I can utilize healthy coping mechanisms to get myself out of it, I would be extremely happy. But for the time being, if I need to call somebody or take a substance every once in a while that was, given to me through diagnoses, I'm okay with that for right now. I'm working through my issue. I acknowledge that the issue exists and that it's going to be a lifelong situation for me, because certain things like anxiety and depression for some people don't go away. They just fall to the background. And I think I'd be happy if it just, lived here but didn't have to talk to me.
Do you think that for some people who say like just going on meds is the same thing, what's your opinion on that?
Once again, I'd probably have to say that it's a case by case kind of situation. Not, some people need medication. I can't take away from that. Some people really need to be on medication that will help balance them out. Some people need it more than others, and some people need to also learn coping mechanisms outside of chemical mechanisms. So, like, I don't, if I meet somebody who's on medication and it makes them happy and they feel okay and they're working through their issues and they have, other systems in place to assist them, I am all for it.
See, I already know the answer to this one, but do you think there's support places for people who may struggle with maybe like even being scared to go on meds? Because I know myself included,
Yes.
I don't like being on meds. It makes me feel weird. So I'm definitely 1,000% more preferable to go manic than be on meds and feel like a zombie.
I understand. There was a stage in my life for, I would say, upwards to 15, getting close to 20 years of my life where anything that was a medication was an enemy to me because I looked at it as I'm just paying a different drug dealer.
Which in some cases,
So there was also a long time that I was on a medication that did not agree with me at all. I was diagnosed with ADHD early in my childhood and also with ADD, and they had given me Ritalin, and Ritalin did not want to sit well with me, not psychologically and not physically. So sometimes I was physically ill, and there were other days that it would actually make my aggression worse than calming it down. I had to go get reevaluated and get a second opinion with my adopted mom and family members from a different doctor. And then they switched me to another medication that was called Resperdal. And that medication at that point in time was uh, helping my attitude adjustment and behavioral issues, but it was making me very groggy and very sleepy throughout the entire day. So my performance at school was damaged. So it wasn't until I was about 22 or 23 where I looked into more holistic approaches that had nothing to do with chemical compounds going into my body. And it wasn't until I was in my mid 30s that I didn't take a look at possibly maybe going on medication again. But once again, we're talking about like a difference of 40 years also in the pharmaceutical world. So the medication access back then for things that were brand new, like ADD and ADHD, compared to now where we have an entire spectrum to look at, not just 2 or 3 diagnoses, came with a bunch of new medications and chemical compound mixtures that attack specific parts of what's going on with a person. So I looked at it that way, and my ever my ever-going brain wanted me to go down rabbit holes on different people, on their testimony, on other doctors, on research, until I found something that's a little bit more balanced for me, that works better with my body and my lifestyle, and it doesn't leave me feeling like I'm not being myself.
If you don't mind me asking, what does it do? What's the well, not the name of it. I don't need to know like what meds you're on, but does it help way more? Would you prefer it over everything else that you?
Um, it doesn't make it doesn't make all the intrusive thoughts go away. And I don't know if this sounds weird. But I guess the best way I could say it is it lowers the volume so I can hear myself, even though I can still hear everything else that's going on. I
It
can hear
helps you
myself though,
it?
and sometimes louder.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
that makes
Yeah. I could be going through something, and I'll be able to tell myself, this is just a temporary situation. I'm going to be okay. We just have to sit down and block everything else out and make a game plan and come up with a strategy and come up with plan B, come up with plan C. When normally without the medication, when I'm having a day like that, it's the only thing I hear is you're worthless. You ain't shit. You ain't going to amount to nothing. Everybody hates you. That's why your mom left you. Like it lowers it for me to the point where I can be more in control. Like I said, it's not ever going to go away, but I can definitely make it not as loud.
Is being in control good for you?
Can can you repeat that again, just so I can make sure I can
Sure, let
comprehend
me
how to
let me
answer it?
rephrase it then. Is being in control with your mental
Yeah.
thoughts way better than being like not even being able to understand it?
Yes. Um. I I personally act out, and I do things out of spontaneity when I am going through a spiral. The very, very, very last time that I was going through a spiral, I ended up traveling almost 500 miles away and just abandoning everything that I had worked on. So I had a business that I just abandoned. I had an apartment and bills and responsibilities that I just abandoned. And I disappeared for almost a year without really telling many people what's going on with my life. And then one morning I just woke up and I said, oh crap, I really just let all of this go. And I was doing so well. And that was one of the situations where I was unmedicated.
And how did you get back on track after that?
I got really angry with
Yeah.
myself. Like my self-esteem and my confidence did exactly what I needed it to do. And it was constantly reminding me, how many times have you fallen? How many times have you gotten back up? Why are you still sitting on the floor crying, why me, when you've constantly always get up and figure it out? Trust yourself, believe in yourself, trust that you've done all these things in your life, that you survived all these things in your life. And I put myself back together and I wiped my tears and boop, I was out.
And now you're here. You're doing a lot of good.
Yeah, I'm doing as much as I can. It's mostly this undying thought in my head that I need to pay back society, because I came to terms with a lot of the things that I did in my past, and um, what those actions might have done to my community and to the same people that I'm trying to help now. So the only way that I feel that I'm going to balance it all back out is by also balancing out the damage I've caused to society. And my best way of doing that is by helping them with my experiences and retelling of my stories and acknowledging as many other people's pain as out there so that I can learn from them and learn how to speak better about these things and assist others about these things. Because sometimes you don't need to talk, you just need to listen.
Would you ever have you ever forgave yourself for everything that happened in the past?
Not everything. Not everything. I wish I can sit here and say that, but there are still a lot of things that make me sad about decisions I've made
Will
in
you
my
ever
life.
be able to forgive yourself?
Think so? And no doubt, I believe that I will be able to forgive myself for a lot of the things that I've done. But at this point in time, I'm working through them. I'm not ready to forgive myself.
Does it get overwhelming trying to deal with everything?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. There are days where I don't want to get out of bed with or without medication.
And have you went to anybody about it, or do you just like suck it up and you're like, I got this?
Funny story. So I was not going to therapy for a very long time. And I knew that I should start looking into the possibility of going for therapy. And then I found out that I had no medical insurance. So now I'm waiting until January when my medical insurance renews to begin the process of finding a new therapist that I can feel that I can trust. So we'll see. We'll see. The story continues in January.
I'll definitely keep.
But I'm definitely for it, man. I'm enthusiastic and I'm really ready for it, and I want to be happier. So I'm willing to try.
I believe that you got this, and it'll be hard, but it'll become easier. Just gotta get comfortable with it.
Thank you.
Of course.
Yeah, same advice I give anybody else. It's gonna be hard, but you just gotta get comfortable and grit your teeth down and believe in yourself.
Exactly. You just gotta be like, well, try again tomorrow. Simple as that.
Pretty much.
Just make
It's another day, another shift.
exactly. Just make it easier. Is there anything else that you would like to like touch on? I don't want to get too deep into anything.
Nah, go for it. Just go for it. Go as deep as you like. Like I told you, I am an open book, and everything that I have, I am willing to give out when it comes to knowledge.
When you started working with, Youth Connect and just and with HIV and anything like that in general, was it still stressful while you were like going through not being on meds and everything?
No, honestly, this this doesn't sound as healthy as it should sound, but this was like medication. Coming to work and drowning myself in knowledge of something that we still haven't fixed. Being a part of this war against HIV and against misinformation and myths, like this work right here is medication for me. I feel great when I come to work, even if I have a stressful day. I feel good. Even when I only speak to one person after an 8-hour shift, just the fact that I was able to reach one person and maybe tell them something that they didn't know, or maybe tell them something that they needed to hear, that is sometimes better than medication for me. I have not gone through a moment of stress at this job or at any other job in the HIV or counseling field that I've been in that has made me regret choosing this field.
So it's like a home remedy for everything.
Heck yeah, man.
That's actually pretty good. I was expecting you to like probably struggle because a lot of people struggle when they first, go into jobs and they're not 100% okay, or at least 50%. So it's a good thing that you were able to focus on it.
I have to attribute that to my time away in prison.
Mm.
When I became an adult, pretty rapidly into my adult years, they were no longer giving out little tiny slaps on the hand because I was a little teenager or whatever. They gave me a large amount of time to do in one shot, and one of the mandates there is for you to get a GD, and then afterwards for you to get a job amongst the rest of the inmate population. So it was either breaking rocks with a hammer or cleaning up the highways on a chain gang, or I was going to be in the law library, or I was going to be in the kitchen feeding people slop on a daily basis, or I can work in the hospital. And once we got into the hospital program, there was a lot of like New York State Department of Health and Social Services classes that you had to take in order to work in the hospital. Afterwards, I found out that there was a HIV ward with HIV courses and classes like that, and a cancer ward in the hospital where I was working at. And I lost myself in wanting to help people that died, that were ill or dying from the same things that killed my mother and my father. So it gave me a brand new purpose while I was there to serve almost a decade away from society. The aggression, the level of disrespect, the inhumane treatment, the kind of conversations that you have with people there all prepared me for the line of work here in society where there are rules and there are better security systems in place compared to the guy that just finished killing 6 people and you have to give him bad news.
Yeah. Scary.
Yeah, pretty much. Gary the bot.
Yeah, very scary to do.
But at least out here, I have places, hundreds of phone numbers at the reach, emails, hospitals, clinics, other social workers, other mental behavioral health specialists, other colleagues here that work with all the facets of Hudson Pride. We work with every denomination of people that are on this planet, regardless of their sex, their gender, their identity, their immigration status, if they have insurance, if they don't have insurance. We're here to help. And that has made my whole entire life, from the moment that I decided to do this, entirely different, because I no longer feel like I fit in the problem category. I fit in the solution category now.
How long have you been working in the HIV field, including like prison? Over 15 years, right?
I became a certified HIV counselor's aide in the year 2006. I became a junior HIV counseling affiliate in the year 1999 after writing a paper on sudden infant death syndrome. I was in a juvenile residential group home in Glen Gardner, New Jersey called Voorhees. And that was the place that, one, gave me my GED, and two, started me looking into HIV therapy and medicine.
So about, if I did the math right, 23 years, 23, 24 years.
Just about. A little bit more than half of my life.
Yeah. And you wouldn't change anything about it?
About my profession? There's 3 main factors that I regrettably have to live with. I have to live out the remainder of my life knowing that I harmed humans, whether it was through chemical or whether it was me physically. I have to live the rest of my life knowing that I entirely obliterated my chance of having a driver's license in the tri-state area. So for me to get better jobs, I have to take public transportation, which is not always the best because that also costs money. I stagnated for close to a decade of my life. So some days I feel like I'm playing catch up with people that are just getting out of college, but I'm in my 40s. So there's a few things that I regret, but I still wouldn't change. Because if I wouldn't have done any of the steps that got me to where I am today, I might not be the person that we're speaking about today. I might have had a little bit of a better life with less trauma and had zero experience in that area other than book knowledge. I might have had zero regard for people going through drug addiction if I didn't go through it myself. There's so many things that if I changed could have entirely stopped me from being who you're speaking to today. And I'm really grateful that I have all this experience and knowledge, and I survived this long in order to be able to disseminate all that information.
With hurting people, I would definitely like to say that everybody hurts everybody, even if it's unintentional. So no matter how many people you've hurt by accident or just because you didn't care, you care now, which washes away all the the carelessness you had before because you feel bad, and that's all that matters. If you feel bad and you're trying to fix it in other ways, it does not matter. It wasn't intentional at the end of the day. Everybody has hurt at least one person in their life, so it's nothing to feel bad about. You're not a bad person. You're trying to help literally everybody you can. That should not be,
Thank you.
of course, that should not be something that you should ever, have in the back of your mind. I hurt people. They've hurt people too. Everybody.
It's I know it's not like
It's
a
a toss up.
how do I put this?
I get it. It's a toss up because it's always going to be like, well, if I didn't do this, but
It's one of the little voices that I can't turn entirely off.
yeah, and I can.
It's the, yeah, Phil, you're doing amazing right now. Look how great you are. Look at all these accolades and awards, but you're still an ex-con. But you still got abandoned. But this still happened. But your credit is still crap. But you still don't have a lot of money in the bank account. You're still living paycheck to pay. Like it's 1,000 little things that go off, and only some of them I can lower the volume on by myself. And for everything else, I turn to meds. But for the most part, like those three things that I say I have to live with are realities. I can't hide them. I survive them. I live with them. Sort of like a person with addiction. Addiction never goes away.
Mm-hmm.
You're in recovery for the rest of your life, even if you're clean for 60 years. You're still an addict or an alcoholic. You're still going through all the motions. You still go through all the steps because we all know it only takes one slip. The same thing with depression and anxiety. If you found a way to cope with it, if you found a way to live with it, where it's adjacent to you but not attacking you or becoming debilitating to you, then you live with it. It's part of who you are. It could be a regret, but it's still an accepted regret. I still wouldn't change anything that I did, even if it gave me back my license and took away my criminal background. I wouldn't change none of it. I'm really happy with who I am today. And that's being 100% honest, even if I'm going through the shitstorm. I'm very happy with what I've done.
That made me sad. Oh. Because I've asked so many people in the 17 years of time, and they've always said something different. They always said they would change everything. They would never be there. They've never told me I'm happy with who I am. It's always, well, it's always that thing. It's always, I would change this. I would change this. And to hear somebody be like, yeah, I went through a lot of shitty things, but at the end of the day, I don't care. I'm here. That hit my heart. That's so, like, you never hear that from somebody. Everybody always has regrets. You have regrets, but you're not letting them change anything. You don't care enough for them. You're like, well,
absolutely
better. You're making up for it.
Mm-hmm.
Aww. I'm honestly really happy that I heard that because I haven't heard that from anybody.
Glad I could serve it.
If somebody who had the same background as you or a similar one came up to you and had like asked, how did you do it? Because they're still struggling. What's the honest thing you would say?
I would honestly, if a person came to me with similar situations, I would first hear them out entirely without putting my 2 cents in or without, when I was in this situation, I did this. I would give them zero advice until they are entirely done speaking. And then I would let them know the reality of it. It is a case by case scenario. Maybe some of the things that I did can help you. Maybe some of the things that I did will not help you. But hearing what I went through might help you understand that you're not alone. You know what I'm saying? Like we can live the same exact lifestyle and make the same exact choices and go through the same exact circumstances and look for the same exact solutions and still have two different and entirely different lives. So I can only share my experiences and motivate others to look deeper within themselves for a resolution to what they've gone through, compared to trying to compare what they're going through with what I went through, or try to take the same exact route that I did to get out of certain situations. We have independent lives. What brings us together is communication, but what separates us is decision making. We can have all the conversations in the world, but at the end of the day, when it's just you about to make a decision, it's just you that has to be happy with it, and just you that has to think about the acceptance of consequences, whether they're positive or negative.
And if they had a negative outlook of what you said and were like, oh no, fuck that, would you just like walk away? You would be like, look, I'm here if you need. Like, well, what would be your approach? Because some people are harder to talk to than others.
I do not close the door on anyone.
Mm.
If a person is not ready to make the steps necessary to find balance within themselves, to find peace within themselves, then it's just not time yet. We have a saying in recovery that you haven't hit rock bottom until you hit rock bottom.
Yep.
And my rock bottom might be different than yours. My rock bottom might be a death in the family. Your rock bottom might be losing your job. It's going to affect you differently than me. So if it's not your time yet, my office door, my phone number, my email address, my Instagram, my Facebook stays open. I still make I still have boundaries set, but one of the boundaries that I do not set is the opportunity to return for more information. No matter how we left off our last conversation, if you need more information or if you want to talk a little bit more, I'm always open to it. And that's exactly what I would tell somebody who's not ready yet.
So, no matter what the situation is, issue, you're going to be there for someone?
For the most part,
Without a doubt.
I unless it's something cardinally criminal, I have a moral mandate within myself that if you say you're going to hurt yourself or you're going to hurt somebody else, and it's it's there, that intent is there, I'm going to say something outside of our confidence,
Mm-hmm.
because I wouldn't want to see another person dead or hurt or harmed or in the hospital or in prison. So if I think the actions of a person that I am speaking to is going to harm their life or somebody else's life, I might do something a little bit outside of my character to try and persuade the person not to go down that route. And a lot of times I do utilize all of my criminal activity and all of the thought process that I went through when I was going through my stinking thinking of negativity.
And is that just for safety of themselves?
It's for safety of everybody. I don't think we need to hurt ourselves. I don't believe in self harm being the answer to anything. I believe that self harm is a subconscious request for assistance when you don't know you need it. It's another addiction, but this addiction yells to other people as well.
And affects others sometimes.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
If you could say anything to
I'm
anyone, right? Oh, go ahead, go ahead.
no. I was actually going to say something like if I had one message to give every human single being that's listening to this, is you are loved. You might not feel it, but you are loved. Somebody on this planet loves you. And I personally, and this goes for everybody listening, I personally believe in you. No matter what stage you are in your life, you can be at the bottom of shit creek. If you think you can climb out and you want to climb out, I believe in you.
All you gotta do is try. Yeah. Hmm. Is there anything else you want to talk about?
Mm, no, no. I love what we do with TNA. You know, becoming a volunteer for TNA is yet another thing that was on my bucket list. After I came out in 2011 from the Department of Correction,
Mm.
I always told myself that I wanted to find a way to work with juveniles and young adults where I didn't get paid for it. So it felt 10 times better to join TNA as a volunteer and not as a job or as a staff member. Like just being here is better than all the money I've made my entire life.
Oh.
Don't get all teary up on me. But it's the truth. I didn't have a program like this when I was growing up. We had the choice of either going to Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts of America, or going to the Boys and Girls Club, or going to the police athletic field, athletically, I think it's called PAL.
Mm-hmm.
And at those programs, you had to fit certain societal criteria. So it was very regional. Like I grew up most of my life in Hudson County, Jersey City. And our Boys and Girls Club, when I was growing up, you were either really, really good at basketball or you were the kid that was getting jumped after the basketball game.
Mm-hmm.
If I went to PAL and I wasn't good at sports, they didn't want you at PAL because it's athletically. And I really wasn't too good at sports other than running because I've been running my whole life. Then if I wanted to join the Boys and Girl Scouts of America, they were pretty much controlled by religion in certain ways, where I was not indoctrinated in the Catholicistic or the Christian way of thinking. So it wasn't something that I morally felt okay with, you know, the prayers and having to thank their larger power, and it just didn't sit well with me. So I was either being ostracized for not being what they wanted me to be, or I was getting beat up for not being what they thought I should be. And then when I came out as being bisexual, and in in a time where being bisexual automatically meant you were gay and just gay, I had to do a lot of things to make myself be the big rough gangster the hood needed me to be in order to not get beat up anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So I had no group of kids to really open up to and tell them I'm depressed or tell them I'm lonely or tell them that I have certain feelings that I don't know if I should be having at this age. There were no groups. Now there's TNA and there's Hudson Pride Center and Youth Connect, and there's organizations like Hyacinth and their Project LOL or Project P programs, where these programs are specifically made for people in that age gap that I missed out on. Like the amount of gratitude that I have is freaking immense.
That's a good thing. I'm honestly surprised TNA became what it was so fast. I thought we were just gonna be,
Yeah.
another small little program that nobody knows about, but a lot of good with Youth Connect and TNA and anything really in Hudson County right now or even around the world. It's helping a lot for teens because a lot of teens now they're actually opening up about what they've went through, or even adults. They're opening up about how quiet they had to be when they were younger. And I think that's what I
Mm-hmm.
kind of want TNA to be in the future, just an overall all age thing. I think that a lot of people who want to talk should deserve and receive that type of space. Because, I mean, you found your way to cope before any groups like this were made. You found a way to actually help others. You were you're in the creation of too. And it would just be amazing for other people to do similar things, to be able to express themselves in ways like you do, and like TNA and Hudson Pride and the others. Like, we just need more people trying to help and be open with themselves, or honest with themselves in general.
Heck yeah, if there was more programs like this, I would love to assume that there'd be more volunteers and staff members.
I agree. I think
But but the growth that we have is is starting to reach a lot of places, and the partnerships that we are becoming that we're starting to work on with some of the other support groups in the area. Pretty soon we're going to be one of the phone numbers and one of the email addresses that first come to mind for people going through crises. Like it's I see a lot of great things for TNA, and being a part of it from the ground level and watching it grow is exceptionally one of the things that make me really happy with the direction that my life has started to take.
mm, yeah, the day that me and our other staff member Gianna made TNA was a shitty day for me. I'm gonna be honest. Like, I didn't want to do nothing. I didn't want to even be there anymore. And she was like, you know what? Guess what? I was like, what? She said, let's start a program. Because we were talking about it. We were like, we wanted to help others because there was this person that we used to be friends with who really messed us up and kind of pushed us to make TNA. And we did. And she made the logo. She made the name for it. We made it in like 10 minutes, and we were like, let's just roll with this, see how it goes. And now a couple months later, it's huge. We're having our first like ever solo event this weekend. We went to the World AIDS last week. Youth Connects being a big help. You're being a big help, and it's like, in just a couple of months, this is what we got. Imagine in the next 2 years.
Heck yeah.
I was
By that
expecting
time,
to be just
oof,
like sitting here, just 2 followers, but no, like, we actually have a lot of people who are interested, and that's crazy to me.
there's a lot of people out here that are suffering in silence,
Yeah.
and we're loud enough to get to them.
Yeah, I used to be like that when I was in middle school or high school, and that's why I'm trying so hard to try to reach out to people like that, because they may pretend they don't need it, but my problem is I read people too well. I know when something's wrong before they even know themselves. So that's why I kind of like that TNA is a thing, because in person or even over the phone, the way they text, the way they talk, I can be like, hey, are you okay? I'm here for you, Just try to give a hand that nobody really did when I was younger. I only have one person currently who's really, really trying. Other than that, I had nobody for years. And so, I want to be a help for somebody. I want to be able to be there. Nice for them.
You're doing an amazing job so far.
Thank you. I try.
I mean, quite honestly, and this might sound brutally honest, if I didn't believe in what you and Gianna are doing, I would have also skipped the post.
Yeah. I,
But something deep within me said, this is going to be amaze balls.
I was just expecting you to be like, no, thank you, or I'll think about it, maybe. You were like just right up. You were like, definitely. I've been waiting for something like.
Let's go.
Yeah, you were like on board from the
And
start, and I was surprised.
heck yeah, man. I mean, quite honestly, like I told you, I've been waiting for something like this to come. And now that it's here, oh man. Oh baby.
Yeah, I want to see if maybe in the future we can talk to Hunter's World, because I know some people from there, and see if all through, Youth Connect, Hudson World, and TNA can do a group event to try to, reach out to
Absolutely.
schools. I so badly want to work with schools. And I've gotten a couple responses, but they're very slow. I want to be able to have an event where we could talk to the students because they need to hear it more than, people who are going into college and stuff. Like people who are going to college, they're getting help, but they feel like they don't need it. Little kids, they need it like bad before things get worse. I want to be able to prevent, what's worse to come instead of just trying to heal what was broken. I want to do both, but I feel like preventing it would do way more justice for people.
Absolutely. It's an issue that needs to be hit simultaneously from both angles.
Exactly.
A lot of people can't move forward without healing something or some parts of their past, which is what's stopping them from being able to move forward. And in order to stop somebody from possibly harming themselves, it's another area that we target very, very well by allowing people to contact one of us on one-on-one basis or group basis when they're going through a moment of crisis. It's not something that's unheard of, but it's definitely a practice that I opine should be used a lot more often. Having somebody willing to take the baby steps that it takes to peel the scab off of old wounds and then be there. Because one of the hardest parts about healing the past child is dealing with the rest of the stuff that's been held back. So you might have a sad little kid inside of you, but after you break everything through, now that sad little kid is an angry little kid. And now you got to deal with the angry little kid. And then you're going to end up with a confused little kid who needs all the answers that they thought they knew replaced with the answers that really are answers and solutions. And then you're going to have, after the confused little kid, you're going to have the kid trying to be the adult trying to be a little kid all over again because they missed out on those. Like there's so many stages to healing. It doesn't just stop at, oh, I started talking to somebody. That's the easy part. Believe it or not, making the decision to finally look for help and making the decision to start talking are actually the easiest parts. That's like walking to a classroom for the first time to say hi to your teacher. Because now you have to start doing the lessons. You have to start doing the work. You have to start waking up to a routine. Like my routine starts at 6:30 in the morning every day of the week. Whether I have to be at work at 10 o'clock or I have to be at work at 12 o'clock noon, or even if it's my day off, I have to start with some kind of normalcy to my day. And getting up at 6:30 in the morning does that for me. I get up, whether I'm tired or not, whether I want to hit the snooze button or not, and go and crawl right back under my blanket and go to bed. I still get up, go straight to the shower, and get my day started. After that, I might be sitting on the couch for like the next 3 hours thinking about what I'm going to do with my day. But I got my day started and I stopped that first step into my depression. The first step into my depression usually starts with, I'm still tired. I'm going back to bed. Mm-hmm. Or I don't got to do nothing today. I'm going back to bed. There's me I have to do today. Every day I have to wake up and work on me. Every day. And I take pride in waking up at that time because I beat the first demon of the day. The demon that tells you stay in bed, ain't nothing happening, there's nothing to learn, there's nothing important you got to do. Those little demons right there are the beginning of a depressive state. And the easiest way in my life to fight it is getting the hell out of bed the moment my eyes open. Not giving it a chance to start making me reach for my phone and start texting or start looking at emails. Because a lot of us do that. We let that very, very first voice of laziness stop us from achieving greatness from the moment that we open our eyes.
First thing I gotta say, waking up at 6 a.m. is crazy to me. Every day. Every day.
It's conditioning. It doesn't work for everybody. Some people, and listen, I watch motivational videos on like all different topics. Like if I'm feeling I have the lack of spiritual fortitude and strength, I'll look for a motivational video that deals with fortitude and strength. If I'm feeling unworthy of living, I look for a motivational video or a tape or a podcast where they're talking about, the motivation to get past the unworthy feeling. If I'm feeling depressed or sad about decisions in my past, if I feel like there's no higher I can climb in my professional life or in my education. I look for things that are going to motivate me because I have to condition myself. A lot of the people that I listen to wake up at 4:30 in the morning. Take Dwayne The Rock Johnson. He has a life full of trauma that he's very open about. And he's like, I wake up at 4:30 in the morning. I have a whole workout before 6 o'clock. I'm already showered and by 7 o'clock, and then I have breakfast and start worrying about my day. And I'm like, okay, 4:30 is a little bit crazy for me. So it's 5. So it's 5:30. 6 o'clock, I can sometimes do 6 o'clock, but 6:30, for some reason, 6:30 is my personal sweet spot. Would I change it? Maybe not now. I still get up certain days and I'm so tired. And I'm still in the shower. I'm so tired. I could just take a shower, go back to bed. And I'm making my coffee. I'm so tired, but I'm fighting through it. And then it gets to the point where, oh, wow, the sun's coming out. Oh, it's going to be a great day. Oh, wow, I got a couple of extra headbutts for my kitten. Evan's up. I have a baby to run around and chase like certain things. And a lot of times I do it just for those sweet little minutes of complete silence and peace before the rest of the world in my house wakes up. It's different reasons, but for some reason 6:30 has become my sweet spot. For some people, it might be going to sleep early instead of late. It's whatever works for you.
For me, I don't have a schedule like that. I need a schedule like that, but I've never had any. I've been trying, but then I'm like, nah. I
Yeah,
used to when
you're fine. I mean, but you have a routine.
yeah.
From the moment, as soon as you wake up, you know what you're gonna do the moment your eyes open.
mm,
Okay, I gotta get up. Are you the type that makes your bed, or are you the type that,
I
well, I'm gonna lay in it anyway?
I used to have a routine. I used to, when my nana was still alive, I would wake up same time as her, 6:30 in the morning, 6:30, shower, get dressed, have breakfast if I could, because I have this thing, I can't eat breakfast in the morning. I'll puke it up, I'll get
Mm-hmm.
nauseous and sick. So if I didn't feel like that, I would eat
Gotcha.
breakfast, clean my room, make my bed. If I was younger, so I would like play with toys or watch morning TV, which ended up just being George Lopez on the TV for like an hour, and then Mickey Mouse goes on.
Mhm.
But now that, she passed and I don't really have a routine set, I kind of just wake up, shower if I feel like it, because I've been like in slumps sometimes. But I don't really have a routine. It's just like I check on my brother. Like if it's school, I get up, check on him, bring him to school, do whatever, but I don't have a set routine.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Now, it sort of sounds like I'm about to interview you.
You're good.
If you can set one thing from your old routine that you aren't doing at this time, what would you add to your routine to start to bring your old routine back?
Wake up on time. Stop snoozing your thousands and thousands of alarms. I used to wake up without alarms. I would wake up at 5:30, 6 o'clock on the dot if it was like the weekends for some reason, because I don't know, I always just got up at the time. But now I don't get up until 5, 10 minutes before I have to go, rushing to shower, rushing to get everything together. I need to start waking up on time because I either snooze it, don't get up at all, or I get up 5, 10 minutes before I have to leave, and it's too much.
Mm-hmm.
I would definitely
Yep.
probably set up like waking up early on time and doing everything I need to do early. I used to do everything on time. I hated sloppiness. I have slight OCD, so like if anything around me is not in a way that I want it, I'll fix it. Like today, my
Mm-hmm.
room was pissing me off. I cleaned it way too much. It became one thing and then it became then the other, and then my whole room was just torn apart and then cleaned in like an hour. I want to go back to
Wow.
having everything set in place and perfect in my eyes. Perfect for me.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Little by little,
Yeah, I guess.
little by little, when like my routine has changed probably 3 times, I want to say, in the past 6 or 7 years,
Mm.
where I make certain changes depending on my circumstances to fit the routine. So like I said previously, there was a time where I tried to do the 5:30 thing, and it just wasn't really realistically working for me. Like I was still getting up and trying to force myself through the morning, but I didn't find that pocket of peace that I found waking up at 6:30. Um, there was a time where I wouldn't go to sleep until I wrote a piece. I challenged myself to write a piece of poetry every day for 90 days.
Oh wow.
And I wouldn't allow myself to skip a day. So sometimes it'll be 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, 1, 2 in the morning, and I'm going through a piece of writer's block. But because I told myself I'm not going to sleep until I write a piece a day, I was screwing up my sleep cycle. So I had to drop the whole writing a poetry piece a day and change it to start a poetry piece a day, or write a theme for a piece that I want to write, or sit there and open my notebook and write 10 ideas of pieces that I might want to write. Or if there's one of the ones that I did recent, there are so many cultures that are blended into my culture. So I want to give each and every one of them the respect that they deserve. So I'm doing a lot more research into parts of my culture as an Arawak Indian that I didn't know. And I want to add a piece to my collection, similar to Indigenous Heritage Day. I had a piece for that a couple of years ago that was about my Taino heritage. So I want to make like a part two to it and explain that Taino is just a word. Arawak is the actual race of Indian that I come from. Because for many, many years, there was a bit of misinformation where people thought that Taino was the kind of Indian that lived in Puerto Rico and some of the surrounding islands, when that was just a word that meant peace. The actual name of my tribe is Arawak, and we come from a lot of different parts of the world.
Mm.
So I want to write a piece giving respect to Arawak, but I can't do that until I do as much research as I can, until I feel comfortable writing the piece. But I'm no longer stopping myself from sleeping to make that piece work. There was a point in time where I wanted to get into this workout thing, and I wanted to get up and, jog before the sun rises, so that by the time that I get home from my jog, the sun's starting to crest. And I was not getting enough sleep to wake up to go for a jog and not be sore for the entirety of the day. Because you also need sleep in order for your body to recover. And I was like trying to do too many things at once, filling my whole entire day up to try to numb myself. So it was me trying to look for a healthy coping mechanism, but aggressively abusing the coping mechanism.
Mm.
So it's finding a balance of peace.
Yeah. Finding peace is very hard sometimes, but it's worth it.
You know what's worse?
Hmm.
Finding peace and not being okay with the amount of peace you found.
Very true. Very, very true.
Like be grateful for the little tiny pockets of peace. Don't, I lived a very long time thinking one day everything's going to be perfect. I'm going to wake up one day and everything's going to be perfect. It's so unrealistic. I'm going to wake up and have one less struggle is a little bit more realistic for me. I'm going to wake up and today I'm not going to stress about my hairline. I'm going to wake up today. I'm not going to stress about how many extra grays I have in my beard now,
Oh my.
or an extra wrinkle around my eye. I'm going to wake up today and I am going to have oatmeal instead of a freaking Pop-Tart. Like, it's tiny little things that you later on at the end of your day go, you know what? I ate healthy today. Let me give myself a hug. You know what? I didn't curse out my manager, even though they're frustrating the crap out of me. I was a great professional today. Let me give myself a high five. Let me go enjoy a cup of hot cocoa. I, accomplished this, I accomplished that. Instead of, yeah, so what? My life still sucks though. Yeah, so I did that, but like, tomorrow still sucks. I made it here on time, but I could have gotten there faster if I had a car. Like, come on, be nice to yourself. Be kind.
Sometimes the bare minimum for yourself is enough.
Dude, really. It really can be.
I know that a lot of people, especially now, they're like, oh, the bare minimum is nothing. I would rather the bare minimum.
That's society.
It is, exactly. I would rather the bare minimum than expecting more than I will ever get and being someone who has their priorities too high, where somebody wouldn't want to deal with you at all. Bare minimum.
True. And it's also we're stuck in this weird existence as human beings.
Mm-hmm.
We have the need to be accepted that's psychologically been there since birth because we're social animals, we're social creatures. We have the need instinctually to survive and to do whatever it takes to live, to survive. So those things are in place from the moment that the egg gets fertilized and you have a brain. You need to survive. Your body knows that it needs to continue breathing. Your heart knows that it needs to continue pumping. Your stomach knows that it needs to continue having food in order for you to survive. So with those two things in place, we are already setting ourselves up to live in a society where everybody's in competition with everybody else for no reason. We go to school and we're taught to get good grades because we have to be better than our competition, when there really is no competition. We're living in apartments where the rent goes up based on the competition. The entirety of our social construct is built on competition against another human being that is exactly the same as you. And it's been like this for centuries. So there's really, unfortunately, there's no fixing that problem in our society easily. What we can fix is our own independent thoughts about being in competition with other people when we aren't. Nobody that owns everything on this planet is taking it with them when they pass. There's no, other than love and knowledge, there is nothing that you own that cannot be taken away from you once you die. Everything goes back to the next purchaser and the next owner once you pass away. All you have in this life is to make sure you are happy. And you can't do that if you're constantly competing with another human being. You can't. This person has a Mercedes Benz. I have a Chevrolet. What about the guy that has no legs and no family and no roads to even drive on? We don't think about that because we're in competition for being better than the next person instead of just be better than yourself yesterday. And it's going to be a continuous issue, and it's going to continue birthing the crises that we're trying to stop. People wouldn't have depression or anxiety or a lot of these issues if it wasn't for the constant judgment and competitive livelihood that we keep on feeding our kids. If I don't send my son to school because he has to be better than the Asian kid that has a 4.2 in math, or whatever other scholastic academic stereotype that you want. I want my son to go to Princeton because it costs more money to go to Princeton, and his degree looks better because he went to Princeton. But he could get the same knowledge at home with the same exact books, with his own level of comprehension. But are we going to give him the $100,000 job a year? No, he doesn't have that piece of paper from Harvard. And this is the continuing cycle that we need to break as a society that nobody is really taking a look at because the problem is so huge that it's out of our hands. Take the wars, for instance. The war over territory that nobody actually owns. If all the people that are at war today, every country that is at war today, died, somebody that didn't belong there is going to build a house on top of that grave without ever speaking about the war that happened there because it no longer matters. You're gone. The only thing that's left is earth and rocks and crushed cement for you to rebuild on and start a life and start a brand new society. None of this matters. None of it. And it's the reality that brings me to peace. The fact that everything that I'm doing, whether it's good or bad, it's temporary. The amount of knowledge and love that I put out is infinite. That brings me to peace. But that's just the old man's opinions.
um, no, but you're right.
Yeah,
Um,
that's Phil Vasquez in a nutshell.
I feel like with mental health, it's a never-ending cycle for everybody. People deal with it in their own way, but I feel like people who are rich or have more than someone else will use it, but you can't really get rid of it. Like you said, it's inevitable.
Pretty much. All we can do is learn from it. Learn from everything that we're going through, little by little.
Everything is.
Excuse me.
You could. Everything's a lesson, whether we like it or not. We just gotta learn from it,
Yeah.
which sucks, but it's the way life is. I mean, that's how we were raised, anyway.
It's a
How it is.
it's like life is gonna keep on teaching you. Now, you could act like a student and pay attention and take down notes, or you could act like one of the other students in the class. Entirely up to you. But life is gonna teach you whether you want to learn it or not.
Yep. And it's inevitable. We teach other people too, whether we want to or not. Good or bad.
Yes, there's always somebody watching.
Yep. Then you can, say your endings, whatever you'd like.
And no ending things. Keep tuned. Stay tuned. Keep watching. Keep listening, and don't be afraid to speak. You're not alone. You're never going to be alone. And if you need somebody, TNA is here for you. But thank you so, so much for allowing me the time to speak on interviewing me in the way that you did. I really appreciate it. You had amazing questions. You always do. The way that your mind thinks and it wraps its way around subjects astonishes me, actually. There's a lot of times where I've done intakes and interviews with people where I didn't think of asking some of the questions that you asked me, and I'm really grateful for it because I've learned some techniques I'll probably be using next time I have somebody going through something.
Really? I just
Yeah.
be thinking, I'm like, I should ask this.
Well, for one thing, you with every question that you thought that might be abrasive, you asked if I didn't mind. And sometimes that right there is very disarming to a person who might be closed off.
Mhm.
You return the power to the other person by not asking a question without their consent. That's a technique that people pay thousands to learn. And you did it like if you've been doing it all your life. Like with almost every question.
Because I don't want to be invasive, and I don't want them to feel like they're forced to do anything. I want people to understand that, like, that's why I started the whole podcast thing. People want to talk and explain themselves, be able to feel, but a lot of people, they just don't know how to say it. They feel like their privacy is gonna be invaded if they give somebody permission to interview them or ask them questions. So I want to make sure they know that, like, it's not like a lot of people who actually ask about the podcast, they think it's scripted. It's not. I give you full whelmed, whatever you want to talk about. If you decide, hey, I don't want to talk about this anymore, I want to talk about something else, sure. You want to cancel it? Okay, sure. It's in your hands. This episode is about you. You choose what you want to say. You choose what you want to talk about. You don't have to answer anything I ask. We don't even have to ask questions. We could just sit there and talk about our lives together if necessary. Like, I just wanted.
Man, I wish I knew that. I wanted to talk about macaroni and cheese. Oh man, missed a good chance.
Oh man.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
But like you could like I just want people to understand that, it's a safe space. You're able to talk about whatever you want. There's no, bumps in the road to get to somewhere. If you want to talk about it, you tell me your story. You tell me your side. I'm on your side regardless.
Factorials. Well, alrighty then.
Yeah.
I am going to head out, and I'm going to sign off.
All right.
But before that, I want all y'all to know I love you. Each and every one of you in your own distinctive ways. I do love you.
Yes.
You're a human being on this planet with me. I love you just for that, just for existing.
Oh. All right. Have a great night. Be safe getting home.
Have an amazing one.
Okay.
Everybody else, be safe, please. Thank you for listening. Bye.
Bye.